let's have a look at this, because this is a bizarre. I've watched this interview through once before, and I'm not quite clear what we're looking at. So let's have a look at it again together. Maybe you can help me, because it seems like Nicole McKee is saying we want to have more AK-47s to keep AK-47s, and I'm using that term, she doesn't say that term, to keep AK-47s out of the gang's hands. Now, the gangs get the AK-47s through illegal means. So if we bring them back and more legally owned AK-47s are out there, doesn't that just mean there's more for the gangs to steal and get a hold of and have? I genuinely don't understand the point she's making, which is, I think, maybe more on her than me. But I could be wrong. That sounds very arrogant. Let's have a listen to some of the conversation from this morning.
Our gun laws are in for a major shake-up. National and ACT have agreed to rewrite the Arms Act, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is off the table. So does that mean military-style weapons and semi-automatics are back? Joining us now is Associate Justice Minister Nicole McKee, who's in charge of firearm reform. Thank you for joining us, Minister.
Who receives funding for the NRA?
I was just about to say, you know how you always say that little line when I talk about old mate from Bombers show? And you always want to put that little tagline in there. Maybe what we should do, I mean, a number of lobbyists and people in the National ACT, New Zealand Fast Parliament that were previously lobbyists, maybe we should say that, same sort of start of everything, previous firearms lobbyist. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
This person?
This is what I was talking about yesterday, right? The conflicts of interest in this government are out the fucking gate. Yeah. It's just corruption. Yeah. Like, I was always on shaky ground about lobbyists anyway, but this is corruption.
Yeah. How about Belfast? Belfast child? How is she a minister? God, it's so embarrassing for this country. Yeah. Yep. And look, to be honest with you,
one step removed, right?
This is going to sound really arrogant and really horrible, but if she ever gets, and I'm not saying this of Lloyd, because he's in a different job. He's in a job of get him in, talk to him, get him out. If she ever sits in front of a Jack Tamer or a decent interviewer journalist, I predict she is going to be found wanting on many things. I think you can just see it in her.
Can you explain what is wrong with the current laws that were passed by the previous government after the mosque terror attacks?
Look, sure, I can do that. But I just want to start off first, Lloyd, by saying, look, yesterday's news was absolutely devastating about News Hub. And I just want to do a bit of a shout out to you, Mel, and the rest of the team there. We're thinking of you and we wish you really well. It's a blow to democracy, and I just wanted to start off by saying that. But what we're looking at in regard to the arms legislation and what's failed is really having a look at gun crime and how it has increased substantially over the last...
So there's the first thing. Gun crime has increased, so we're going to bring more guns back. I almost expected her to say, what we need to fight a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. And she doesn't say it, but the first part of the conversation to be talking about gun crime being high, they're going to bring... I'm lost from the first answer.
Few years, 2019 and 2020, we saw legislative changes that actually... Sorry, just put this back in. Legislative changes that actually have made New Zealand a less safe place. An example of this is gun crime has been on the increase by gang members alone. So between May...
Again, okay, so gun crime's been on the increase since gangs, so we want to bring back more guns. Like, honestly, I'm completely lost in this already. I'm not going to stop the interview yet, Chewy, but if you can help me, if anyone can help me, I would appreciate it.
No one can help you.
2022.
She is trying to link the post-Christchurch attack law changes directly to increased gun crime from gangs. Now, there's no link there. There is no link there at all. They banned military-style semi-automatic weapons. You look at what's being taken away from the gangs and what's being used by the gangs. They're not military-style semi-automatic weapons. It's insane. The amount of guns that were taken out of the market as part of the amnesty and destroyed was momentous. And if she wants to then pivot to talking about law-abiding gun owners, If you are still sitting on a military-style semi-automatic weapon, you are no longer a law-abiding gun owner. You are someone that is breaking the law. You can't have it both ways.
The only way this logically makes sense to me is what she's saying is there's already these weapons out there, so therefore we need other people to have these weapons. Like the only logical leap there is she's saying, you know, if other people want to fight back against, but that's what I'm saying. It sounds like she's about to jump into a Second Amendment tirade. You know, to protect ourselves, we want to have semi-automatic weapons and the right. It sounds like that's actually what's behind what she's saying, but what she's saying doesn't line up with that because we don't have a Second Amendment. So it just sounds like she's using the kind of arguments that you'd hear in America without this being America. Do you know what I mean? It's just bizarre.
Gangs aren't rolling around with a fully teched out AR-15. They're rolling around with sawed-off shotguns, hunting rifles that they've stolen, or that law-abiding gun owners have sold on the black market.
Yeah.
Or they've bought to order for the gangs because they can get a good price for them. Yeah. That's the pipeline.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to register, and I get it. There's some criticisms of a register, but she doesn't want one which would link illegal guns to law-abiding gun owners.
Although I do remember that we had one of the spokesmen for the police on last year who was very clear that getting rid of this proposed register would put more guns in hands of gangs. That's what they said to us in an interview last year. So we'll keep trucking through, eh? We'll see if we can make any logical leaps. I like the comment that I put up that she sprained something with that kind of logical leap, but we'll see what happens after the rest of this conversation.
Increase by gang members alone. So between May 2022 and the 17th of May 2023, we have had 2.8 firearm offences every single day committed by gang members.
And so again, how does that stop bringing back AR-15s? Like what does bringing back AR-15s do for that? I don't know, but what does bringing them back do to that stat? What, the gangs are going to be scared of people because they might have AR-15s? That's what I'm saying. This feels very Second Amendment-y.
We had a Labour government that focused their Arms Act reform on the law-abiding, and they let the gangs run amok. This government is going to make sure that we focus on going after the gangs and respecting the law-abiding.
Because what the Labour Party and what a lot of...
See what I mean? It makes no sense. So we're going to focus. So hang on. So why are you changing the firearms laws? Why are AR-15s going to be more available? Because we're going after the gangs, and we're going to get the gangs because they're criminals. That sort of is not what we want to know. We want to know, why does someone need an AR-15 to go duck shooting or hunting in the bush or whatever people say that they're using it for? Not duck hunting. I know that'll be a shotgun, but you know. Like, that's actually why do we need... It's a little bit like what Chloe said about smoking. Who's asking for this? There's actually probably people who are asking for this one, and it will be good to find out who they are and how much they're paying. That would be an interesting thing to find out. A little bit more of this.
We want to reintroduce semi-automatic weapons, and these are weapons that are most commonly used in mass shootings that we've seen overseas. It's what happened in the Christchurch attack as well. Why do you want to reintroduce semi-automatic weapons?
I think we need to be clear in the first place, Lloyd, that I'm not reintroducing anything. Those firearms are already here. In fact, we have 6,600 people who have endorsements to be in possession of those firearms. So there's nothing new here. We are not going to be introducing any new types of actions or any new types of firearms into New Zealand. What we will be looking to do is ensure that we have a regulatory reform that ensures the safety of the New Zealanders, increases compliance with the legislation and reduces regulatory burdens on some.
Is there an ulterior motive here? Because you read between the lines of what the opposition parties say. Is there an ulterior motive here, or do you just want a good, solid Arms Act?
I come from a background of firearms safety, Lloyd. I ran my own business doing firearms safety around our rural and isolated communities, as well as in the cities. What we want to achieve, this is the government as a whole and as ACT as a political party, is a regime that actually goes about keeping New Zealanders safe, that includes everybody in the conversation about how we have good...
Except the gangs. Remember, we had this last night. Everybody except the gangs.
arms law and then producing arms law that is enduring for the future, just like the 1983 Act was. That means everything needs to be on the table, the good, the bad and the ugly, so that pure and good conversations can be had to make sure we do get that enduring legislation.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I'm just, look, when I was in high school, I got my firearms license. I think it's all gone out. I used to use it for target shooting when I was there, but I don't remember. I fired about 3 guns in my life ever, and I don't know what it's all about. Yada yada yada. So I'm not into it. But it sounds like what she's saying is we need to change legislation. Everything's on the table now. That means any kind of gun. That means concealed permits are on the table, because that's anything. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go there, but when she says anything's on the table, that means anything's on the table. How does the idea of repealing and putting guns back in people's hands help gangs stop committing crimes with guns? You know what I can do lots of the time, Stewie? I can actually listen to an argument and go, I see what they're saying. Like, I don't agree with it, but I can't even see what they're saying. I can't even follow it through.
No, because the pivot is, I must talk about gangs as much as possible. Like, let's look at some stuff here. Police crack down on corrupt firearms holders diverting guns to gangs. And there's a picture of the guns that they've confiscated.
Yeah, shotties.
All of them are shotguns that you can buy with the simplest firearms license that any farmer would have, any duck shooter would have. Because that's all the gang needs. You know, they just want something to brandish or whatever. These aren't AR-15s. Like, the gangs, they're too expensive. They're too flashy. They don't make any sense. But yeah, gangs have found a more sophisticated way to get their hands on guns, corrupting licensed firearms holders to source their firearms. Now, that's something that the firearms register would hopefully limit, you know. And then again, another story here, again, more examples of confiscated firearms.
Those look like 22s down the bottom. Yep. Hunting rifles,
cut down 22s, break action shotguns, that sort of thing. They don't really go for the flashy ones. And yeah, oh god. Jesus, Harold, sort it out. Police allege Auckland man who bought 18 guns and 2,500 rounds of ammunition was a straw buyer for a gang and other criminals. It's a law-abiding, licensed holding gun owner.
Yeah.
So if they were serious about cracking down the pipelines for firearms owners to sell guns to gangs, then you need a register and you need more checks on these firearms owners. You know, there's someone calling us out for not knowing a lot about guns. I'm firearms trained. So, and I've got a lot of friends that are hunters. One of the friends of the show has been talking to me about this law change. And, you know, I'm not saying that it's not an impossible thing to bring back for a very select group of people military-style semi-automatic weapons. Like the way that they have framed this as competitive shooters that compete in international competitions with these weapons want them back. Now, I don't think that's really a huge audience to go and change the entire law that we brought in, because
for those 9 people,
because you know, what was it? 57 people died when a license holding firearms owner who legally purchased all his weapons went into a mosque and murdered men, women, and children. And we kind of went, "Oh, that's a bit far." The firearms owner that I talked to about this sort of stuff went, even before the amnesty, I can't justify having these weapons around anymore. They're fun, I enjoy them, but I can't do it. That is a responsible gun owner. Now, part of the conversation that I've had with him this week sort of resolves around the fact of if they change this law and bring it in for sports shooters, they can't keep these weapons in their home. that they've got to be locked away at a gun club that they're registered at and lock and key. And they can't go down there themselves and get them out. Sure, if those sort of checks and rules are around, I pretty much don't have a big problem with it coming back. But it's that legal creep of, oh, well, we were doing it for the sports shooters, but now it's not fair if we don't allow this person, this person, this person. And now they're out there. And the more they're out there, the more they can disappear, the more they can get stolen, the more that they can be sold by people that don't have ethics.
It's real simple. I mean, just look at it. Use a ridiculous example. If there was literally no guns, if there literally was not a single gun in this country, right? Not one anywhere. How many would the gangs have? None. Not literally not one in the country. If there was 10 times as many legal guns in the country as there is right now, how many would the gang have? And the answer is much more than what they've got right now. Much, much more. So, I don't know.
Like, hey, New Zealand as a population has a lot of firearms because we're a nation of hunters, right? That really skews things. But then the cops have got to get better at policing it. Like that was something that came out of the inquiry, that people weren't checking in on license holders. They weren't checking in on sales. There needs to be more oversight on gun sellers.
Yeah.
There needs to be a register. The register needs to be safe and secure for everyone's benefit. And I think that the yardstick for maybe we'll bring back AR-15s, that yardstick needs to be incredibly high, really, really high. Like if someone can clear all those hurdles, can prove that they're a fit and proper person, completely mentally stable, don't seem to have a deep and abiding hatred for one segment of our population. It's under lock and key and 3 people have to see them use it, that sort of thing. Sure. Do I trust that minister to do a good job on that? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Fair.
No trust at all.